Cheers. Let's bring in Matthew Dowd, former Republican strategist and MSNBC senior political analyst. Let's ask you that same. I mean, this is the reality, Matthew. None of those people got the tax cut? Okay, let's just be clear. The tax cut went 80% to corporations and the super rich. If you were not really, really rich, you did not get a tax cut. You might have gotten a few pennies here and there. If you lived in a blue state, your taxes went up because they took away the SALT deduction, so you can no longer deduct your state taxes. If you own a home, your taxes went up because they took away the ability, they reduced the ability for you to write off your home mortgage interest. So the tax cut literally only helped you if you were really rich. Why do people who are not really rich think he's, quote, for the people?
Well, the same reason why they think that he's a religious person. Right. No matter how many, I've had conversations with hundreds of Trump supporters, and I live around them in Texas when I'm there. And there's this suspension of disbelief. It's like they're in a Netflix series about UFOs, right, or Martians. And like all of us, if we get into it, where our emotions take over, and then we no longer sort of say, well, that can't be true. That can't be true. That can't be true. They suspend all that. In the course of this, you could go through any number of things that if you just had a fact set and go to them, that they were presented to them, any rational human being that's not caught up in this emotional cycle would be like, oh, yeah, you're right, you're right, you're right. The economy, everything. I mean, every single thing. The fact of the matter is Joe Biden has done more for Donald Trump supporters than Donald Trump ever did for his in their how they live at home, their finances, every single protection of Medicare, protection of Social Security, all those things. But they're in this suspension of disbelief, which is held up, in my view, it's always been held up by the fact that Donald Trump hates and despises the same people they do. The same people Donald Trump hates and despises they do, whether it's people of color, people that have a sexuality that they don't agree with, disabled people, immigrants. Donald Trump makes fun of those people and hates those people just like they do. And that hate, unfortunately, and I don't say this gladly, that hate suspends their logic in their mind when all other factors point to the fact that they should be supporting Joe Biden. The fact that Donald Trump breeds that hate that they actually tap into keeps them as a supporter of Donald.
That's those that are, and the only thing I'll disagree with you there, it's not a Netflix movie, it's a Tubi movie at this stage. Let's talk about the rich people, because part of the, I hear this all the time when people who say they like Trump, you say why, and they say, because I had more money under Trump. Not possible, because the economy cratered under Trump and you had less money because the economy shut down. How you had more money, couldn't tell you unless you were really, really rich. Here is a woman who is really, really rich. This is a woman she was an Obama fundraiser. She herself is an immigrant. She came to this country from Vietnam. Her name is Allison Hune. She once lived down the street from Steve Jobs in Silicon Valley, yet she claims that what exasperates her about the current era is violent crime and illicit drug use. Maybe illicit drug use, but we're probably talking about a different kind of drug that's in powder form, not crack form. She also said it's not just law and order that pushed her to the right. She would like to see policies such as lower taxes, ding, 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 that benefit businesses and encourage entrepreneurship. Many people are coming to Trump. It's for his good policies, she continued. Quote, look at his 2016 Jobs Act. A couple red flags when I read that piece in of course, New York Post, which didn't, inquire any further. Barack Obama was president in 2016, not Donald Trump. And the thing that she called the Jobs Act, the only thing you can come close to it is the tax cut. They called it the Tax Something and Jobs Act. They called it the Jobs Act. So rich people like this lady, who's really, really rich, are selling to broke people that, well, she had more money because she got the tax cut. That's all they want, right? The tax cut.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so unfortunate is you would hope in a democracy that people are voting for the common good, right? And even if a wealthy person may have to pay more in taxes, if it's going to help 5 million other people, they would be for it. Some are doing that. People like Melinda Gates, announced that she's going to support Joe Biden, and she's a billionaire, but she's doing it because of choice and abortion and the other issues, not for herself, but for the millions of other people that would be impacted by Donald Trump and his policies or have been impacted by Donald Trump. What's amazing about this is Donald Trump gets away with acting like he's a populist and against the elite when he has the most elite people. And it's not just people running a major 500 corporation with hundreds of thousands of employees. Those people aren't supporting Donald Trump. It's the hedge fund operators. It's the oil company operators. It's all the people that don't have a large contingency of employers with diverse employment. It is these people that are become wealthy and want to keep their wealth.
GREED. There is no other policy they're talking about, y'all. They don't care about anything else. That tax cut's going to expire, and the corporate one is even lower, and these people pay less taxes than their secretaries, and they want to keep on paying and keep on dropping up and walking up that money. That's all this is about. Matthew Dowd, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.